This is Josh with Blue Collar Ballistics. Today I've got a guest with me here. It's going to be Zeke Stout with MGS Trade School. How are you doing, Zeke?
Good, man. How are you?
Doing pretty good.
Don't you love when you start a podcast and you got to go, hey, we haven't talked at all yet, so let's act like we haven't and introduce.
Yeah, we got to sitting on here. Got to visit with Zeke here a little bit before we started and stuff, and kind of get to know each other and a little bit of what we got going on and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
But Zeke, what's your position with MGS?
So I'm one of the owners, and then I'm also the chief marketing officer by title, and the director, and this and that. I do a lot of things. I spin a lot of plates every day. But yeah, MGS Trade School. It's a distance education gunsmithing college, and what we do is or gunsmithing school, trade school. I have to remember we don't grant a degree, so I can't call it a college.
Yeah,
But we do gunsmithing education via hands-on projects. But we send those hands-on projects to you. You do them, you send them back to us. We grade them and kind of go from there.
I'm not going to mention any of your competitors, but is there very many gunsmithing trade schools out there that you can that people can use, or is there
Yeah,
a few?
yeah. There's a lot, and they've got great programs. There's only I think 3 or 4 that do distance education like we do,
Okay,
and a lot of people know a couple of the names of them. Um, I shall not mention one. Uh, but then there's a few brick and mortar ones where you can actually go to school. There's Pennsylvania, there's Yavapai College, there's Colorado School of Trades. There's, I think, Fayetteville Technical in North Carolina has one. Um, but yeah, there's a bunch of different brick and mortar ones you can go to, but you actually have to go to that school and attend the school and enroll full time. A lot of people that get into gunsmithing, it's later in life. They're sick of working as an accountant in the toothpaste factory, but they love guns and they want to get into the gun industry. And it's a great way for them to kind of do that.
I know it probably sounds pretty bad being around guns most of my life, but until we met out at the IV 88 Range Day in Georgia, there, I didn't realize you could do gunsmithing school over online,
Yeah.
not actually at a school.
Yeah, I mean, there's some aspects that we can't teach because there's a liability issue there. I'm not going to teach you how to use a lathe online.
Yeah.
And I mean, next thing I know, Johnny with long hair, and I can say that because I used to have long hair, um, gets his hair caught and the lathe rips his scalp off, and then we get sued because we didn't teach him proper safety, and I wasn't there to stop it or whatever. So machining we don't teach, but all the basic core concepts, maintenance, basic repair, cleaning, storage, everything like that. The basic tools. We teach you how to fabricate your own hand tools. Um, we teach you how to do wood refinishing, all the different basic things you can learn in gunsmithing. We can teach correspondence wise.
Nice. Do you guys have any any certain trades that they can major in or anything? Is it pretty much all the gunsmithing kind of wrapped up? Is it kind of all taught pretty much together?
Yeah, right now it's all gunsmithing. We have 3 different levels. You don't have to take them all. A lot of people, that's their first question. Well, if I take basic, when can I take advanced? And then when can I take advanced too? That's not how it works. Basic is kind of what I tell people. It's that person that wants to dip their toes in the water. They want to just get a basic knowledge. Or maybe they're needing a certificate and they already work in the gun industry, but they want a certificate in a firearms related space. And so they take that basic course. Advanced one is, hey, I want to be a gunsmith. I want to learn this stuff. I have a lot of the tools. I may not need a lot of the tools, so I'm just going to go with advanced one. And then advanced two is the exact same coursework as advanced one, except we add a build at the end. You get to choose from a 1911 striker fire pistol, a Traditions muzzleloader, or a AR-15 platform. And
Yeah.
you get to pick one of those 4 as your final project, and you build it. You get to keep the weapon, of course. And then when you graduate, one of the big things I always thought with trade schools is you go to an auto diesel mechanic school, right? When you graduate, you have a pallet of tools you could turn around and take to any body shop, any dealership, and say, hey, I've got my tools, I'm ready to be a mechanic. And they're like, there's your bay, go set it up. gunsmithing schools don't do that. And there are a lot of tools you need. So one of the first things I did when I came to MGS is we set up a graduation kit of tools. So when you graduate from the Advanced 2 program, you get everything from belt sanders to tabletop grinders to, I mean, all this stuff you need to kind of set up your own shop or take those tools to a gun shop that doesn't have gunsmithing, say, I could be your gunsmith. So all that said, all that Advanced 2 is all less than $6,000. It's $59.99. So we're super affordable as well.
That includes the class and everything. The class
Yeah, that's everything. That's your curriculum. That's the build kit. That's all the tools you need to get through your individual projects, and it's all the tools you get when you graduate too.
Nice.
Yep.
I apologize about that. That's my dog in the background there.
No problem. Mine will probably bust in here in a minute. I've got an Irish Wolfhound. It's like a horse.
Oh,
So,
nice.
yeah.
I know some people that got one, and
they're great dogs. What do you have?
I got an Old English Bulldog.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I had one of those years and years ago. She was a sweetheart.
I guess they were bred to kind of help get rid of some of the health issues that the English Bulldog had.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
So, but is there any certain type of guns that you like working on more than others and stuff after with all your experience and stuff like that and guns?
I really like seeing new innovative stuff and seeing how they work as far as like me personally. I love tinkering with staccatos and any of that double stack 1911 stuff. It's just kind of fascinating to see. Well, it functions like a 1911 for the most part, but there's a few little tweaks here and there. I like that stuff. Bullpups. I enjoy working on bullpups and just playing around with those. Of course, I mean, we're in America. Most American gun you can think of is an AR-15. It's Legos for adults, and I have built. I'm probably pushing 50, maybe. I don't have them all. I've built them for a friend or tweaked this, that, and there. Or several of them I built, and then I'm like, I'm going to sell this one and get to something else. And I really enjoy those. Probably my favorite thing in our build programs, the 4 that we've done, because I had to build them all. I wrote the curriculum for them. That Traditions muzzleloader is fun.
Yeah.
It is so simple. It's an old percussion cap muzzleloader. There's nothing fancy to the way it works. There's nothing fancy to the action, but you have to do so much fitment and woodworking and metalworking and little things here and there that you tweak. You get the most gunsmithing knowledge working on that one than any of the other ones. So I really enjoyed that one. But yeah, those are probably the ones when it comes to tinkering and working with them. Those are my favorites to go through.
She keeps doing that. I'm gonna go lock my dog in a different room.
It's like a soundtrack.
Yep.
You should make it a regular segment. Can these guys be interviewed through the dog?
So I sat down here one day with my boy, my 9-year-old, and we were trying to test it out, see how it sounds like I'm doing a podcast here and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And she was barking and stuff on there, and I ended up posting it because I'm like, you know what, we'll just throw this on there and let people check it out. But in the process, she's barking. He brought her over, picks her up, puts her on the chair so she could be on the channel too. So maybe she can be part of it. Who knows?
Yeah, my dog hates it when I'm on Zoom meetings or something like that. She just starts barking like crazy. She's jealous, it may be something like that. But yeah, just turn it into a segment. Like have some song ready to play, and the moment she starts barking, you just say, "Oh, now it's time for Can You Be Interviewed During a Dog Barking?" Gotcha. Of course, come up with a better name than that. That sucked.
So you work like bullpups and stuff like that. Is there a lot to know about working on them? I've never worked on them. I've shot them a little bit, and I don't like a lot of the ones I've shot just because the mags kind of cut into my wrist because I got big hands and wrists and stuff.
Yeah, it's one of those things. I mean, bullpups for me are hit or miss. I'm 6'7". I've got huge, long. I've got a 7'2" wingspan, so my arms are long and gangly, and there's a lot of bullpups that I just can't function well. Like the P90,
Yep.
that little bitty thing.
I don't like that.
I can't shoot it. Like if I hold it, it looks weird.
Even if you do the sight rails set up so high off of there. If you want to put an
Yeah.
optic on there,
Yeah.
there's difference between the sight plane and your
Exactly.
barrel that it throws it off. I mean,
And
if you're just using open sights looking through that hole
yeah,
they got there, then it's different. But
I think probably my favorite bullpup of all of them was that first generation Tavor, that IWI Tavor.
I was going to
Yeah.
tell you that I've got the TS12, the 12 gauge.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
I love that one.
Yeah.
Probably
It's a fun gun to shoot, man.
I
Yeah.
haven't shot their rifle the rifle bullpup,
Mhm.
but the shotgun I have, and I love that one. That's probably my favorite one.
Nice. Nice. So yeah, that's those are probably my favorite ones of all of them. As far as working on them, it's not anything hard. Just there's different mechanisms in there, because now all of a
Where-
sudden the action is in a different place in relative to the magazine.
So
So
like say with the ARs, they're all pretty similar. They all
mhm.
got the same similar parts. The bullpups have similar parts. I mean, like interchangeable, similar. They all pretty much set up different. Nothing
There-
really standard with them is what I'm getting
I
at.
haven't done a whole lot with a lot of them outside of shooting them.
Yep.
Tavor, the Keltec is very different. The Tavor is very different.
So there's not really a standard with bullpups then.
There's not, you can't take Tavor parts and put them on the Keltec RDB. It's not going to
Yep.
work.
Yep.
To where you could take a Daniel Defense AR and use the same bolt carrier group in a Noveske rifle.
Hmm.
So yeah, it's not quite that similar. As far as functionality, the functionality is similar. You're gonna have to have the action being longer in different places. Does that make sense?
Yep. Yep.
But as far as like working on them, it's not going to be the same
Not going to be the same.
brand to brand. No.
So you mentioned staccato earlier. You worked on those, you said?
I have not worked on them.
Gotcha.
I have taken them apart. I
Gotcha.
am scared to work on them because they cost a lot of money.
I do not own one. I've got a friend that does, and I got to shoot it. And
Yeah.
you know, I haven't shot anything for a handgun that costs that much, and
Yeah.
that thing shot smooth. It was
Yeah.
probably worth the money. I didn't have
They
to buy
they
them,
are
but
phenomenal handguns.
they're
It's the only hammer fire gun that I'm tempted to carry. Was it the C2, the carry one?
made.
Uh, it's the compact.
Okay.
I think it's a C2. I could be wrong. But that one, like, I'm tempted to carry it. It runs and it is smooth. But I typically try to avoid hammer fired pistols just because,
Hmm.
with my height comes a extent of clumsiness. And how many times am I at the range with something that has a safety and I go click, oops, the safety. Well, in a real shit hits the fan scenario, I don't have time to go, oops, the safety. I want to be
Yep.
able to draw. It's striker fire, no safety. I pull the trigger, it goes bang. So I need as little amount of thinking and manual dexterity as I can possibly have carrying a weapon. But I hear a lot of people, and I know a lot of people that train on a annual basis using a 1911 or a staccato or something that has a safety, and it's just repetition, repetition, repetition. Those people also recognize I should never carry a Glock or a Sig P320 or something like that doesn't have a safety, because now I'm so used to a safety, that's going to mess up my training that way. So I chose to go non-safety, so that's pretty much why I don't carry a lot of the hammer fired
I
pistols.
generally I like when I grab a gun to have the same sight picture. I like to
Yeah,
have the same trigger pull. So like just in my past, I've shot at thousands of rounds through Glocks. So I'm a big
yeah,
Glock fan. Are they
yeah,
the most accurate gun? No.
yeah.
Are they reliable? Yes. I like that I can pick it up and I pull that trigger, it's going to go bang.
Yep.
And whenever I get, it seems like most of the guns that I get, I'll make sure that I've got the same type of sights. I get these Trijicon night sights,
Hmm.
so they're all get them that way, get them all the same. So I get the same sight picture. I don't change my grips that you can change out. I like to have the same feel, the same sight. So if I'm ever in that situation, I don't have to think about
Sure.
what I'm looking at, or how the trigger pull's different on this gun or that gun. And I've got a lot of different guns, so yes, I do have some handguns that are double action only, or I've got different sights. Or some of them, like I've got a revolver that's got the sight and it's in the groove on the top rail,
Yep.
just above the cylinder there. And I've got some that have different sights, but just in general, though, when I get them, I try to have the same sight and grip and stuff like that, so I don't ever have to think about it.
And that's one thing that ruined me. I'm a Glock fanboy. I was always a Glock fanboy. Then the 365 macro came out, the 6 hour.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, I like this. I like this a lot. It's slim, it's compact, but it has 17 rounds. So then I kind of became a SIG fanboy, thinking I'm still going to shoot Glocks too. Until I went and after I trained with my SIG, trained with the 320, trained with my 365 XL macro, and then I went to shoot my Glock 19. And going from a steep grip angle back to a Glock, like going from a Glock, I could always shoot anything. For some reason, like I could shoot Glocks, and you could hand me a HK, a SIG, a M&P, anything. Well, not a XD. I hate XDs. But all these different guns, I could pretty much figure it out and shoot it. But then going and being straight up SIG for a while and going back to Glock, that was hard to do. The first thing you do, you're like, oh, I got to tilt it down, and you're like, oh, well, now we're back to one more thing I've got to think of, instead of a safety. Now it's like, oh, I'm not on my, my sight, my sight alignment is not there anymore. So now I've got to tweak it, so I have chosen to strictly carry SIG for now. I've done that before. I went HK for a while when the VP9 came out, and I carried that almost exclusively for about 2 or 3 years. I went back to a Glock 19. And the reason I did that is while the HK VP9 was affordable, anybody that's ever been around the law, whether it's law enforcement, lawyers, judicial system, anything like that, you start to realize, oh, I'm hearing about this guy who was in a justified shooting. And when you are, I mean, that's a lot of people don't realize. When you train, what you get for your concealed carry permit, don't stop there. Go get more training that's more extensive, because you are not prepared after your CCW class. And one of the things you learn in these bigger trainings is a mindset thing. If you get involved in a justified shooting and you were totally right, and you're still going to go to jail that night. It's going to happen. Are they going to be mean to you? Probably not. They already know it's a justified shooting, but they have to go through the process. And your gun is going to be put into evidence. Now, what they always tell you is, oh, you'll get it back in 2 to 3 years. You'll have a trial. You'll get it. The likelihood of you getting it back is very, very slim. I have been to many, many police lockups where there's tons and tons and tons of guns used in justified shootings, but because of red tape and paperwork, they stay in the lockup. So I got to thinking, do I want $1,000 gun on my hip when I get arrested if I get involved in a justified shooting? And that answer was no. So I went back to the Glock 19. Well, then SIG starts pumping out the 320s and the 365 macros, and they cost the same as a Glock. And I can shoot them better. Well, guess what I went with? I went with SIG. So now I've been pretty much a SIG fanboy for the last 5 years now. So
I've been a huge Glock fan for quite a few years, and here a year, 2 years ago, year and a half ago, went over to a friend of mine, Drew Case. He's got a YouTube channel as well, Beyond Exclusion. And I was over there shooting, and he's got a real nice range over at his place, and he's got a bunch of steel out, probably about 50 yards. And so I had my Glock 19 I was shooting, and so I'm shooting these different plates going around. I think then boom, boom, ding, boom, ding, boom, 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 ding. Just hitting the steel as I go around there. And I got done, and there was him and another guy there, and I don't know who handed it to me, but one of them was like, try this gun, and it was a real inexpensive Stoger.
Mhm.
and I pull it out and I start shooting. I'm like, ding, 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 ding.
Oh, wow.
There's a huge difference in accuracy from gun to gun, whether it's a
Yeah,
less expensive gun or even something a little bit
and
less pricey. But
you can train and train and train, and you can have hundreds of thousands of rounds under your belt, and somebody put a gun in your hand. If you're not used to it, if you're not used to the trigger pull, if you're not used to the grip angle, if you're not used to the sight picture, you won't be accurate with it. So you got to then train and train and train with that one. There's one that I love right now, and they're relatively new. Ross Martin. Have you shot one of those yet?
I have not.
They're
If
based out
I
of
have, I don't remember. But
they're based out of Texas. It's another striker fire pistol, dude. I love that thing. I have yet. I'm going to take it out and I'm going to put a few thousand rounds through it because I just really want to see, how it handles, some real good beatings. But I want to say the MSRP is $499. Um, so it's a quality gun for a good price, and it runs. And I love that thing. So Ross Martin, giving them a shout out. They are a great company. Chris, the owner, is a great dude, and they're if you were looking for an inexpensive carry gun that is reliable, check them out. I mean, absolutely check them out.
I might have to do that. Like with my channel, Blue
And
Collar.
no, they don't pay me anything.
No, I don't have anybody paying me anything yet either.
Yeah.
Anyway, with my channel, Blue Collar Ballistics, I like to shoot a lot of the less expensive guns just so people, if it's something they want to try out or get,
Mhm.
they know whether it's something that's good quality or not. And I get something here or there, that's a little less expensive. But also
Yeah.
with that, I like to shoot some nicer stuff too because it might be something that they don't always get to see too, And from time to time, I'll have somebody come over and shoot with me, and it's always nice having a kind of a variety. But yeah, I'll have to check them out if they're a little bit less expensive, and
So,
maybe pick one up and shoot it on a video sometime.
yeah, they're cool. Really, really good guns.
So you were telling me earlier that you've done a lot more than just work at MGS. Did you say you were on a Discovery Channel too? You said.
I said I didn't want to talk about the Chippendales days, man.
Oh, okay. Sorry,
Cool.
sorry to bring it up.
I'm kidding. Yeah, I had a show on Discovery Channel. It was called Master of Arms. It was a weapons building competition. It was similar to Forge and Fire, but we also added guns and archery to ours. So they still did the cool blades and stuff like that, but then we also did other cool stuff. It was me, Ashley Lubinsky, um, and then Nick Irving was the surprise judge at the end, and then Trent Ty was our blacksmith. It was fun. It was the most fun I've ever had working. It was the weirdest stress I've ever had with work once it went to air. Because I'm used to, I do a job, right?
Yep.
If something goes wrong, I fix it. I learn how to fix it, or I hire somebody to fix it. That's what I'm used to work being. With TV, you do a job. If something goes wrong when it goes to air, it's there. They're done. It's there forever. So if they edited it weird or showed something that I was talking about and it's not what I was talking about, but the editing person guessed. Not that never happened. Our editor was great. But it was just a weird sensation not having any control over your product that went out. So I enjoyed it. We had a blast doing it. A lot of good things have come from it. But for the most part, would I do it again? I'm not going to say no because if the money's right, the money's right.
Yep.
But it would take a lot for me to get to do that again.
What else, do you got? Is there anything else you've done that's been pretty neat? That you want to talk about or anything?
Oh man,
Oh,
I
I
I
know
was
you've
just
done a lot of different things.
yeah, I was just thinking about this the other day. I spent time with my son. My kid's mom and I are divorced. Been divorced for years, so I go see him, and he comes to see me, and we stay. And afterwards, I was driving back home, and I've got a 3-hour drive. And I was thinking, I'm like, man, I hope he thinks Dad's done some great stuff. If I work hard, I can do some stuff. And I started thinking about everything I've done in my life. My degree is in sports medicine and biology.
Oh wow.
So going through college, I got to work with the football teams, the volleyball teams, baseball, softball, doing sports stuff. I also played college basketball. Let me rewind. I was on a college basketball team. I never played a single freaking whistle, a second on the team. I was a walk on. And then I walked on to a couple of other JUCOs. Then I was like, okay, I'm done. I did that. I worked in the medical field for 13 years. 8 of those years was in the clinical side. So I got to be around some really cool stuff, assisting surgeries. I was a clinical director. Then I went into the sales side, made great money. But the good thing that I learned there is money doesn't make me happy. I made great money, but I was miserable doing medical sales. And that's kind of what parlayed me into what I'm doing now. Started a podcast. The company I was working for at the time, after I'd done medical sales, went into my buddy's office who had this conglomerate business in Nashville, and he owned 2 Mexican radio stations. And we opened one of his locations in a rough area of Clarksville, Tennessee, and I got my carry permit. And when I learn anything, I dive in head first, 100%. So I was watching podcasts and YouTube and all this stuff, and my buddy Marty, I'd call him because he's been a gun guy for years. And I was born in Texas, and I was raised in Tennessee. They give us a rifle when we come out of the womb, but I was never a gun guy. I hunted, I shot guns, but I wasn't like into it until this. And so I got just soaking up all the information I could. And I was talking to Marty one day. I was like, let's start a podcast. And he's like, what the F is a podcast? Except he didn't say F. I don't know if you cuss much on the show, so I didn't want to ruin your show.
I try not to. But.
Okay. So he said that, and I explained it to him. Next thing you know, we started talking lead. And within 6 months, we were the largest gun podcast in the world. We were in 117 countries. Part of that was our first big guest was episode 4, and it was Hickok 45 because we didn't realize he lived 20 minutes away from us. So he came on the show, and that just exploded the show. And we started getting sponsorships and growing the show, and got to travel to all these places, train with all these different companies. We trained with Green Berets. We trained with Navy SEALs. Went to Yeager's place and trained at Tactical Response. Rob Pincus came down and saw us, and we trained with it. So I'm getting to learn all this cool stuff, right? And then that I parlayed into the job with that other school that shall not be named. Grew them exponentially and got to do a lot of other cool stuff. I'm a pin arms, grenade launcher armor, all these cool things I've done. Had a TV show, had a radio show in Nashville. And it's like, damn, I've had a pretty cool life. And I've never sat back until this last weekend and thought of all that, And I hope, let me knock on wood, hopefully I'm not saying this, and then when you air this, you're like, we're sorry, Zeke passed away in a car wreck, something like that. Usually when somebody goes, I had a pretty cool life, next thing you know, you hear they, fell off a cliff or something.
That's nice to hear. People that enjoy their life and can look back and be like, I did this, I did that, and I enjoyed it.
Yeah, and because and part of me thinking that is I've got some other opportunities on the table that would be really, really cool to do, but I'm thinking time, I'm thinking money, I'm thinking time away from my kids, I'm thinking time away from my family. I recently got remarried. I love her to death, and do I want that time away from her? How much building this cool, awesome story of a life takes away from what really counts and what really means the most. And it was kind of that moment of, I've done some cool stuff. I think it's time for me to just still run MGS, still do everything I'm doing, but just dial back grasping and doing and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, it was an interesting thought process. But you said that it's funny that you said that because I was just having that thought process 3 days ago, driving back from Kentucky. So yeah, it's very interesting stuff.
Yeah, I've got all kinds of things that I want to do, but I was talking to somebody about it, like this fall and stuff. I want to start doing this and doing that, and I got to thinking about it, like with my boy and stuff like that. If I start doing that while I'm doing this YouTube stuff and my regular job and all that different stuff. I'm not going to have time for him because I'm
Yeah.
busy with it all the time. And so a couple of the other things I want to do, I've kind of just left on the back burner at
Yeah.
this point, you know. But yeah, those are things that you got to think about in life. And
Yeah. Hell, you know, and one of the things, and this might be something you can do, you know, one of the other little plates I have spinning that I'm always spinning is my son made his high school golf team last year.
Yeah.
And wanted me to take him to play golf more. And I've played since I was 12. I suck. I'm horrible at golf, but I really, really enjoy it. It's one of those things where you can enjoy being bad at something. And so we were playing more golf, buying clubs, clothes, and I'm like, oh, well, you know, when I started a YouTube channel for the gun world and the podcast, we LLC'd it, trademarked the name, and then we just wrote off our ammo and guns and trips and all this other stuff. Maybe I'll do that for the golf world. And so I started a channel called Dilla Golf. You've heard the term Dilla Gaff, I'm sure. Do I look like I give a you know what? So I started Dilla Golf. Do I look like a golf? And I don't look like a golf. And I did it just to write off all the golf stuff. Well, I think last month I hit 10,000 subscribers on YouTube. And I was like, excited. I was like, woohoo, that's awesome. But then I got to thinking, wait a minute, that took me like 2 years in the gun world. And this was like 4 months in the golf world. And it's like, yeah, they're not suppressing content on guns, whatever. So that kind of took off. But, you know, that maybe that's something you can do with your son, like find something that y'all can do together and make him a part of it, you know.
Yeah.
Because it all, you know, as he's gotten older and my daughter, she's now in college, you know, that's what I think about now. It's not for me doing the podcast, the YouTube, the radio, the TV. It was never about fame for me. In fact, I kind of hated that aspect of it. You know, if people wanted to talk to me, I would always stop and talk to anybody.
Yeah.
It was not, hey, look at me or anything. I wanted to have a platform to be able to make a difference from. You know, if it was the gun world, it's making a difference and changing people's minds that were anti or on the fence.
Yep.
Because that is possible. You know, that's one thing, and I hate to get political on shows, but right now I open Facebook and I want to delete it all because we all hate each other. And it makes me sick because that's what the powers that be want.
Yep.
You know, we had an extremist for the last 4 years, and now the people that followed him are making people that are pro-Trump out to be extremists, and that's what they want. They want us all fighting. They want us all hating each other, because if we all fight and we hate each other, they get away with whatever the hell they want at the top.
Yep.
And if I get assassinated after this, y'all know what happened. Or if I die, you know, y'all know what happened. We can get along. I have talked to many people that are anti-gun, and when it's one-on-one, you can't fight the mob mentality. If there's two or more people that are anti-gun, you're never going to change their mind. But if you sit down with somebody one-on-one and take it from their viewpoint, you know, you don't have to agree with their viewpoint, but get in their mindset and then go, okay, actually this, you know, Trump, you know, 4 years ago, and now Trump again, was my greatest weapon in fighting the anti-gun mentality. And here's how I did it. Oh, well, I'm pro-gun, but I don't see why anybody needs an AR and AK. Okay. I'm assuming by that statement you just made that you're not a fan of Trump. Immediately they're like, oh, hell no, he's a Nazi. He's the second coming to Hitler. Oh, blah, blah. Okay, let's stop. I'm going to put myself in your shoes, and let's say you're right. Let's say he is the second coming of Hitler and he is a Nazi. And then I get real serious and I'm like, do you want Hitler taking your guns? Because that happened before. And all of a sudden that light bulb goes off. Well, shit, I never thought of it like that.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's the Second Amendment has zero to do with me getting mugged or my house getting robbed. It has zero to do with hunting. It has zero to do with sport shooting. It has to do with, if you're right and this person is a Nazi, we need ARs and AK. Oh, well, then the next thing you say, oh, well, you know, you'll never be able to fight our military with an AR or AK. Did you ever hear of Vietnam? You had a bunch of farmers with AKs hiding in holes, and they kicked our ass. You know, do you realize why we've been in Afghanistan? We were in Afghanistan for so long. Similar situation. It is possible to fight that, but it's more like the Cold War. Russia and the United States were never going to nuke each other because they knew if one nuked the other, then the other nukes the other, and then the world is gone. It's done. Nuclear weapons now are nothing like Hiroshima and Nagasaki. They're 10 to 20 to 100 times, I don't know how much stronger, but they're way stronger than those atom bombs. It would destroy our world. So it was a Cold War. I've got mine pointed at you. You've got yours pointed at me. It's a stalemate. It's a similar thing with the Second Amendment. You know, the likelihood that our government is going to come and take everyone's guns is next to zero. Because I've interviewed cops, I've interviewed officers in the military on our radio show, on our podcast, and we asked them, if the government said, go get everybody guns, would you do it? And every single one says, there's no way in hell. It's not possible. You're going to tell me I have to go to Cousin Johnny and say, give me all your guns, and the possibility of having to kill him? No, it's not going to happen. So it's one of those things where if we can get past all the BS politics, all the stuff that the media tells us we need to fight over, and go, hey, let's actually have a common sense conversation one-on-one, you can start changing minds. I know of 5 people that were friends of mine, or are friends of mine, that are very left leaning, and they were super anti-gun, and all 5 of them now have an arsenal. Because they saw the logic, they saw the reasoning, they heard the science, and now they got training. Are the rest of the politics still a little wonky? Sure. but I care for people that vote not like me. I can do that. But all of a sudden I'm seeing people who I care for going, I hate you if you voted for Trump. I hate you if you did this. I don't ever talk to me again. That's what the powers that be want. They want us divided because a house divided can't stand. So, okay, I'm off my political soapbox.
Oh, you're all right. It's all good. That's things we need to know and need to hear and stuff too.
Yeah.
I think some of the big questions that I get from people and stuff. I used to teach concealed carry classes. I haven't for quite a while. I'm still certified to, but was like, you're teaching all these people concealed carry and stuff like that.
Yep.
We're gonna have all kinds of people running around with guns out there.
Yep.
And I'm like, we already get all kinds of people running around with guns out there. These are the people you want to have guns. They take the time, they spend money for this class. They take time out of their day to take the class. They go spend money on the permit. And not every state's got permits and stuff. And I think our state's gotten rid of it where you can.
What state are you in?
I'm in Nebraska.
Okay. Gotcha.
But like if you go out of state, then you'll probably still need to have a permit to show that you're legal in your state and stuff. But yeah, these are the people that you want to have guns. Just like say with gun control.
Yep.
Like, the only people you're controlling is the law-abiding citizen. The people that are going to do bad, that do crimes, they're going to do it whether there's a law for it or not. You know, and
that's an argument I have a lot where I live. I live in Memphis, Tennessee. Tennessee is a very conservative state. Memphis is not. Memphis is our little blue hole in the corner. But it's odd here because a lot of people here are super pro-gun, but there are a lot of people that aren't pro-gun because they lean left and the left tells them you can't be pro-gun, which is BS. It's everybody's right. Mm-hmm. The entire Bill of Rights is everybody's right. I don't care if you're liberal, conservative, or middle of the road. It's everybody's right. Mm-hmm. Well, Tennessee got constitutional carry about 4 or 5 years ago. And if you don't know what constitutional carry means, that means you carry because the Constitution says you can. You don't need a permit. You don't need anything.
But we did that here just recently. I don't know, was it September last year or the year before?
Yeah.
I don't remember. I think it might have been 2023 in September.
Yeah. So about the time that happened, a lot of correlation equals causation people came out of the woodwork. And if you don't understand it, when you learn about correlation and causation in school, the big one is in the summer, rape goes up. In the summer, ice cream sales go up. So ice cream must equal more rape. You know, that's correlation does not mean causation. So people need to realize that. Well, crime went up about the same time we had constitutional carry come in. And I've had so many arguments with people who are like, well, we got that stupid constitutional carry law and everybody's got guns everywhere. And I say, stop. really, really think about what you just said. Do you really think these violent criminals that have been committing robberies and murders for years, and they've got rap sheets the size of my leg, do you really think they went, oh, we got constitutional carry, now I'll have a gun? And just that simple argument makes people go, well, probably not. I'm like, they didn't. They had the guns anyways. They're gonna get the guns regardless. So if you ban guns, by definition, you make a law that says guns are no longer legal. Do you genuinely think criminals are gonna go, well, we can't have guns no more. Dang it. Oh well, we'll use a rock. No, they're gonna get the damn guns.
That's right.
And people don't think logically. They think with their emotions, and you can't do that, especially when you're running a business, a country, or anything, where people's livelihoods and lives are involved. And it's just bizarre to me that people actually think, well, constitutional carry led to more crime because more criminals got guns. No, it didn't. You still have to get a gun the same way you got a gun before constitutional carry.
I think the more people own guns too, the criminals are going to think twice about breaking into somebody's house, or
Yeah.
twice about mugging somebody.
There's an old phrase from the Wild West, and I love using it because everybody is always like, well, if everybody has a gun, it's going to be the Wild West. Well, really, statistically, were there really that many gun murders in the Wild West? Yes, it seems like it because people would go in the street and they'd settle an argument with a shootout, but it wasn't every day, all day. That's just what's in the movies. Look at the statistics from back in those days. What was the murder rate? Anyways, so anybody that's anti-gun that's watching this, first, it's weird that you're watching this. Second, go research. But there's an old phrase from the Wild West, and it's an armed society is a polite society.
Yep.
And I go on local radio here in Memphis all the time. They have me on as the resident gun guy, and I bring that one up all the time. And I've had people go, well, I don't understand what you mean. In Memphis, we have this thing called interstate shootings. I don't know what it is, but there's just these random shootings that happen on our interstate. It's a little crazy. Our gang violence is pretty high here and stuff like that. But I tell people, okay, when you're driving down 269 and somebody in a beat up Altima with drive out tags cuts you off, and they got pitch black tinted windows and some kind of gang symbology on their window, when they cut you off, do you flip them off? Oh no, I wouldn't do that. Why not? Well, they're probably armed. Armed society is a polite society. If everyone is armed, you're less likely to be a dick to them.
Exactly.
It's one of those things where people need to go back and sit down and actually think, not just do what CNN or Fox News tells you to do, because there's extremists on our side too that think a little kooky.
Yep.
We need to stop and think and have conversations and discussions and figure everything out. But with gun laws and gun rights and gun violence, if you really stop and think about things like that, you realize, oh, the extremist being anti just doesn't make sense scientifically, logically, rights wise, legally. None of it makes sense. It's just, and then I go back to that other saying, and I usually hate cliches, but I've used like 20 of them on the show, so I don't know what's wrong with me tonight. But it's the other one. When someone is trying to disarm you, they are about to do something that you would shoot them for. And that is a very powerful statement to think about when you think politically on gun rights. Why does a lot of our government want to disarm the citizens? Why? If the citizens are law abiding and they have the gun to protect their family and themselves, or to put food on their table, and I know that's not what we said the Second Amendment was about, but that's a lot of the reasoning people have them, and they're law abiding citizens, why do you want to disarm them? What's about to happen? And that's what people really need to think. And now we fall back on what the Second Amendment is about and why it's in place and why it is the second in our Bill of Rights. It is the amendment that protects all the other amendments. And then the other, I'll stop with the politics after this, I promise. The other argument I always hear that I love is the whole, well, the Second Amendment only applies to muskets and cannons from back in those days. Okay, fine. Let's suspend disbelief again. Let me put myself in your shoes once again, where I feel like really weird. Fine. Then the First Amendment only applies to old newspapers and handwritten word. First Amendment no longer applies to internet and technology and phones or anything like that. If you want to pick and choose, then you got to make it blanket pick and choosing for all of it.
All across the book. Yep.
You can't say, well, I want First Amendment for everything, internet included, but then tell me my Second Amendment only applies to old musket. That's BS. Yeah.
Well, yeah, going back to the reason the Second Amendment was written, the government didn't have all the stuff they have now back then either. So,
Exactly. If you really, and it's bizarre because Cal Berkeley, one of the most liberal schools in the world, there was a linguistics expert there that did an analyzation of the Second Amendment. Because people were like, show them that they're wrong. It doesn't apply to everybody. This is only for militias. And he came back and was like, no, the way it's worded, this means a well-regulated militia is supposed to be had in all the states. Also, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. It's two different statements in the Second Amendment.
Yep.
And people were up in arms, and then they buried that whole study. We're going back to, why do they want to disarm you?
Yep.
Why? Why do you want me to not have a gun? And then the one that drives me nuts is when people are like, well, if you have a gun, you're more likely to die by a gun or get killed by a gun. And I'm like, I don't see that. I mean, I don't understand that at all. If you are going to commit suicide, you're going to find a way to do it. Whether you have a gun or a knife or you drown yourself in the tub. If you really get to the point where you're like, I am absolutely done, I am done, you'll find a way. It has nothing to do with me having a gun. If you have a gun and you were that bad off and you were that, depressed or whatever issues going on in your life, is a gun going to do it faster? Sure. But it has nothing to do with the gun why you're wanting to commit suicide. Back to correlation and causation.
Yep. So, as much as I'm for guns and the Second Amendment and everything like that, one thing I would like to see more of is more training for a lot of people that have guns.
Yeah. That one's tough for me.
It is, but I mean, like, I don't not want them to have guns. I just wish more people had training.
Yeah, it's one of those things where I am a staunch. I'm not Republican. I'm not Democrat. If I'm anything, I'm a constitutionalist. If it's in the Constitution, I'm all for it, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it's hard for me because it says shall not be infringed.
Yep.
If I then force you legally to take all these trainings to maintain your gun, am I infringing at that point? So that's hard. But in my heart, in my gut, in my mind, when I really think about it, and I see people that have got their concealed carry permit and they're doing some stupid stuff with guns, I am all for training. I am all for. So where I fall in that discussion is, I don't feel like it should be mandated because I feel like, okay, we're bordering infringement there, but at the same time, damn it, you have a tool that is designed to kill.
Yep.
Let's face it, a lot of people like to tiptoe around what guns are. Guns are tools that are designed to kill. That is an enormous, enormous responsibility to have. If you're going to take on that responsibility, take on the responsibility and train all the time.
Yep.
Every chance you get, you go to other trainings, defensive trainings, not just your concealed carry permit class. Take a rifle course, take a handgun course, take a fighting course. There's so much that you have a responsibility to do after you decide I'm going to carry this firearm. It's just hard for me to say we need to mandate it.
I'm not saying mandate it, but I'm just saying that's the one thing I wish that there was was trained.
Yeah, and I feel like and maybe this is something we do from this podcast.
Yeah.
I feel like if there was like some nonprofit training group or something that would be willing to, hey, state of Tennessee, give me all the concealed carry permit holders now. I'm going to now reach out to them and offer them a free fighting pistol course or rifle course or whatever, and offer these free trainings. Maybe even you can get a government grant out of it. I don't know. Surely there's some way to offer the training, because let's face it, I know a lot of people that get handguns and they buy a high point because they can't afford a Glock. And I tell them get a high point because the high points will run. You just don't want to carry them because they weigh a cinder block.
And then
But if you're just wanting something to put in your bedside table, high point's fine. If that's all you can afford, go for it. But guess what? If they can only afford a $180 pistol, they probably can't afford 1,000 round training.
Yep.
So then you're in that debacle of, well, crap, did we just make gun ownership for the wealthy? Which a lot of people have argued that's why ammo prices have gone up. That's why gun prices are going up, because they're trying to eliminate lower middle class. I don't know about all that. I have no clue about the economics of it. But you do get into that point. I can't afford a gun, or the gun I can afford now, I can't afford to train with it, or I can't afford the round count to be proficient with this gun. And that's where I think maybe a nonprofit, maybe I started. Maybe this is me going on record saying I'm going to start a nonprofit where we provide free training, somehow. I don't know.
I think it's a great idea.
Yeah. So that's one of the tougher arguments in the gun debate to have, because if you're a staunch constitutionalist, Second Amendment shall not be infringed. Oh crap, maybe we should force them to take some training, because that idiot over there just spun around and muzzled everybody at the range.
Yep.
It's a tough one. It is very tough, and I think that's probably the only option we would have is a nonprofit that provides free training. Or at least free training to you can prove that you only make this much a year. Yeah, you can come to a free course, and everybody else that makes 80,000 plus, you still got to pay the $500 course fee. I don't know. Surely there's something there where we can make sure more and more people get that training that they need with the firearms.
Yep.
And then train kids. It's a lot of people, oh, don't let kids handle guns. Wrong. When you're a kid and your parents say, don't touch this, don't go near this, don't do this, what do you want to do?
Go check it out.
You want to go check it out. You want to sneak the car out. You want to go see the Playboy or Playgirl, whatever side you're on. All these different things. So, like, what I learned when I first started handling guns is I trained my kids. I took them shooting. I did it in a safe environment. I taught them the 4 cardinal safety rules. And one of the things I did to desensitize them from guns and make sure that they're safe around them, I would take my handgun after a day of carrying it around. I'd take it out. I'd make sure it was unloaded, but put it back in the holster to where they didn't know. And I'd lay it on the counter and I'd walk around the corner. And they had a rule. If they saw a gun out anywhere, not just at our house, anywhere, go immediately and tell an adult. They had to. That was what they had to do. And I was so proud. My 6, 7-year-old son would see it and he'd, Daddy, Dad, you left the gun out. Oh, and they'd be like, you're an idiot. Why'd you leave the gun out? That's so. I'm like, oh man, I did, not knowing that I was testing them. And I keep all my guns in a safe and under lock and key. But I wanted them to experience, hey, look, this is the scenario. This is what I should do in that scenario. But I also didn't want them to try to find out my code to the safe, because I told them they could never touch or be around or shoot a gun. Because if you do that, that's all they're going to want to do. They're going to want to break into the safe and see what the gun's all about.
Yep.
It's just human nature. So
That's a good way to go about it. Like, I've got so many guns and stuff like that. My boy, he's not been real curious about it. It's pretty commonplace to have him around and stuff. I have taught him the 4 safety rules many times, and each time I ask him, he'll remember one of them and maybe 2, but then we have to go over them again.
Yeah.
But back to even if they do know the safety rules and stuff like that, it's good to keep them locked up in a safe, because
Absolutely.
Just because your kid knows how to safely handle a gun or knows the safety rules, what happens when you get another kid around?
Right.
They tend to show off, or they want to. They don't think like they normally would when you're around. When they got other kids around,
Absolutely true.
they start thinking different. So even if your kid's safe with the gun or knows the safety rules and stuff like that, it's still good to keep them locked up.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, my son, when I had the TV show, his friends would always ask what kind of guns I had. And he went through this little phase where he'd always tap my hip. He goes, "You got it on yet?" And I'm like, "It's shush, you know,
yep, yep,
eh, if you want to open carry, open carry. I don't care. I don't open carry because that's my little secret. I don't want. I'm already 6'7". I've already got a bullseye painted on my face.
I don't like
If I got a gun, it's another bullseye. You
I don't
know.
like open carrying either because then you get other people get excited when they see you around or freaked out or whatever
Yeah.
the case is. And if you're carrying concealed, you don't get that attention drawn to you. And then not only that, like what you're saying, you don't have a bullseye painted on you per se. If
Exactly.
you got it hidden, you've got the element of surprise if you ever need it. Now, I hope none of us ever need to use a firearm in self-defense.
Yes.
But if you ever have to, you want to have the upper hand. You want to have the element
Yeah.
of surprise. You want to have all that. So yes, I would much prefer to concealed carry myself as well.
Oh, 100%. It's one of those things where I see it, and back to shall not be infringed. I'm not going to tell you how to carry, but I just
Yep.
think if I'm a bad guy and I walk into this, Chipotle or wherever I'm at, and I see a gun on somebody's hip, guess who's getting shot first?
Yep.
You know, so it's one of those things where I think, okay, this is my own little secret, and thank God I've lost my gut a little bit because now I can appendix carry. Because for a while I could never appendix carry because it hurt.
Yep.
um, but when you appendix carry, you can conceal a lot better than at your 4 o'clock on your hip. But
Yep.
so it's just one of those things where I'll never judge anybody for the way they carry. If they're pro gun and they're carrying a freaking rock on, thank you. Most cops, every cop I've ever gotten pulled over by, they always thank me. I think the most disturbing thank you I got from a cop is she pulled me over. First thing I do is always have my hands at 10-2. I've got my carry permit and my license, and I go, I've got a loaded firearm. I'm appendix carrying. Here's my stuff. And they're like, okay, appreciate it. And she came back and she goes, "Thank you for doing everything right. Thank you for telling me where you had it. Thank you for not pulling out and showing it off." She goes, "But you got to realize I'm grateful that you have that because cops typically, the majority of the time, we're crime historians. We're not crime fighters. We're not there when it goes down and we're able to stop it, in the middle of the bank robbery. We get a call, and by the time we get there, it's over. The crime's over. We're then historians trying to figure out what the hell happened and secure the scene." And I'm like, God, I never thought about it like that. And that's kind of depressing when you think about it. So it was an interesting interaction, but she was very grateful that I carried. And out of all the times I've gotten pulled over, probably 80% of them have thanked me afterwards. Um, so yeah, it's interesting.
Yep. That's nice. So, and it's nice to know that the cops actually see that too.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
so, well, Zeke, I appreciate you coming on here and talking to me. I've taken up quite a bit of your time already.
Hey, I'm sorry I soapboxed all through your
Oh,
podcast.
no, that's all right. I enjoy that, and it helps like with what we're talking about too. That's how conversation works, and
It's a
I
lot
learn stuff
easier.
that way too.
Oh yeah, it's a lot easier. That I've done so many interviews both on radio and podcast, and a lot of them are great. I try to make it feel like we're just shooting the breeze with my
Yep.
buddies, right? But there's some where it's like, "So, what do you do for a living?" "Fishing," and you're just like, "Oh no."
Yep.
"So, what about fishing do you do?" "Oh, we got a fishing guide business." "Okay, where is it?" "Oh, Nashville." "Oh God." And the whole interview's like that, and you're just like pulling teeth to have the conversation. So I try to be as animated and say as much as I can.
Great. It was a great conversation, and I like that. So
Yeah.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, anytime, man. I enjoyed it.
So where can people find out about the gun
Yeah.
training stuff? Just is it MGS Trade School online or?
Yeah, it's MGS Trade School, and the website is mgs.edu. If you want more information, if you want to enroll, if you're looking at becoming a gunsmith, breaking into the industry, I mean, even if you don't want to be a gunsmith, we have people that take our course because they want to work in this industry. So you can go to mgs.edu and type in. Oh, here's my dog. There she is. um, and request more info, or you can enroll on the spot, or if you want the old fashioned way, our 800 numbers there, you can call it, and our admissions reps will guide you through the whole process.
All right. Well, I appreciate you coming on and visiting with me.
Yeah, no problem, man. I enjoyed it.
Until next time.
All right.
Stay safe.